right, guys, welcome to Pop Culture Addicts. This is our live show. Now, this fine-looking gentleman next to me, this is Chris from Following Films, and we're going to get a little bit more of an introduction to Chris here in just a moment. But I want to welcome you guys to tonight's live show. We got a bunch to discuss, and if you have not seen the Mandalorian and Grogu movie and you are worried about spoilers, this is your warning. I'm not going to talk about anything until I've issued a spoilers warning. There's spoiler notes down below. I've done all I can to make sure that you guys don't get spoilers if you don't want the spoilers. However, if you have watched the movie, please stick around. If you don't care about spoilers, please stick around. We're going to talk about the movie. We're going to have some fun. It's going to be a good time. So tonight we're talking about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. And this will, of course, because we try to be positive in the Star Wars space, any fandom space, really. We're going to keep this gatekeeping free. So we're going to talk about stuff we like, stuff we don't like. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. As a reminder, we just want to say thank you to all of our listeners and viewers, because without you guys, this is not possible. And then, of course, we want to say thank you to our longest show partner, Level Up Sabers, and one of our newest, Once Upon a Tea. There's links for them down in the show notes down below. Go check them out. Get some cool lightsabers, some cool nerdy merch. Once Upon a Tea has some fantabulous designs out there that, yeah, they're just good. It's a good time. But yeah, you can go down, you can check out the links down below. Now, as I said, this gentleman here, this is Chris from Following Films. So Chris, take a second, tell everybody about your show and where they can find it, man.
Oh, thank you, Tim. Again, Chris Maynard from Following Films. Have a podcast and a website. On the website, I tend to review physical media. As you can see behind me, I have one or two movies. I tend to review those new releases. And with the interview show that I have on the podcast, mostly focused on interviews with creators. So actors, writers, directors. Occasionally I'll get musicians on the show as well. People associated to pop culture, but mainly people associated with movies, with a focus on stuff that's independent, things that might go otherwise unnoticed.
Love it. Okay. Excellent. All right. So guys, before we jump into tonight's topic, do you want some loot? Do you want some cool free stuff? I bet you do, because I like free stuff. I know Chris likes free stuff. We all like free stuff. You hate it? Okay, cool. But if you want some free loot, here's a quick way to get it. If you go to our website for Pop Culture Addicts, pcapod.com/contact, and you hit the contact sign up screen there, you can fill out all your information, give us your email address, and you get registered for whatever we have out currently, and then anything else that's open in our backlog. So you have opportunity to not only win now, but you can win multiple times, because your name never comes out of the hopper, and we have people that have won 3 and 4 times. So don't worry about that. You'll have plenty of chances to win and get some free loot. So with that being said, here's the first one up. Now, if you're familiar with Plants vs. Zombies, it's been a game that's been around for a long time, and we've got some game codes to give away. So, all right, gamers, Plants vs. Zombies is celebrating its 17th anniversary. 17 years of keeping lawns safe and zombies, well, composted. We're teaming up with Plants vs. Zombies Replanted to bring you something fun. Promo codes across every major platform. That includes PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and Switch 2. So no matter how you play, we've got you covered. Whether you're a longtime fan or just planting your roots, now's your chance to jump in. Prepare to kick some grass. Okay, so that's Plants vs. Zombies. So if you're a Plants vs. Zombies fan, you can get Plants vs. Zombies Replanted just by signing up. Give us your email address, and we'll make sure that you get. I need to know your email address, and I also need to know what system you want it on. So make sure you put that in the comments section when you sign up, that you're an Xbox, a PC player, PS5, or Switch, or Switch 2. Just need to know which one, because otherwise you're going to get a code that may not work for you. But I'd like it to work for you, and I'd like you to have some fun with it. Here is our second giveaway, and that is the TV show Fallout. We just got done with season 2, and it's very exciting. So now we have it here. Now, Fallout Season 2 is now available on 4K Ultra HD and DVD. Based on the iconic video game series, bring home the action-packed post-apocalyptic thriller starring Walton Goggins, Ella Purnell, and Aaron Moten. In season 2, our odd trio ventures across the wasteland in search of the ruins of New Vegas. Own Fallout Season 2 on 4K Ultra HD and Blu-ray now. So, again, you want to win? PCApod.com/contact. That's how you get the cool free loot. So, that brings us up to Mandalorian and Grogu. Lots to discuss here, lots to go through. And but first, before we get into any of that, I just want to talk about what it's been like to be a Star Wars fan for the last, I don't know, 40 years of my life. I think this pretty well sums it up. I am the Jessica Jones person, just trying to enjoy the Star Wars. And there's all the other Star Warriors, keyboard Star Warriors, that are making it not as fun as it should be, and trying to make sure you don't get to enjoy it either. That's not going to be the case. We're going to have a fun, open discussion about Star Wars, about this movie and what it means, what it doesn't mean, and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's pretty much tonight's discussion. We hope that you guys all have a good time with it. And if you have any thoughts, comments, questions about any of the topics that we have going on tonight, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you have a comment or a question directed at either Chris or I, put it in the comments and I'll get it up on screen and we'll see what the responses are. Okay. All right. So first things first, let's get the negative out of the way. What about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie did you not particularly care for, Chris?
Okay, so starting with the negative, which I genuinely did enjoy the movie. So when I put this out there, it is being a little nitpicky, but there were a few things that I didn't care for. And it's been an overall thing that I never cared for in The Mandalorian anyway. It's Pedro Pascal and the way that his vocal performance is in the film. And in the series, it's very monotone. They don't allow him to act. He's a very talented actor, but he's given, I think, the performance through, it's by design, the way they want him to be in the show, I'm assuming, but I don't feel a lot of emotion from him ever in it. And so that's something, vocal performances overall are not my favorite. I would say Jeremy Allen White, I believe is his name. I didn't care for his performance either. It was just I liked it a little bit more. Then you get to Martin Scorsese, loved it, but those two vocal performances I didn't really care for. But beyond that, I would say I really did. I did enjoy it quite a bit. What about you? What were the things that you got stuck on?
So the things that I got stuck on are also small, nitpicky items. It's just, so my biggest oof of the movie is, we know that Grogu has Force ability. We've seen it throughout the series. And when Mando was down and he, the young was taking care of the old, and they show him like suiting up for battle. I'm like, oh, this should be cool. Get to watch little Yoda go to work on some troopers. This will be fun. And that never happened. That really kind of bugged me. And I was just like, well, okay, but he is a kid. I mean, technically, yes, he's a kid. He's 50 years old, but for his species, he's still a baby. So I get it. But that's what I really wanted to see, something. I was kind of hoping that maybe he still had his his little lightsaber somehow, and that maybe he got that back. I don't know. But he's putting on all these grenades and he's going, full Chuck Norris with the belts and little Chuck Norris, little Rambo looking type thing out in the jungle. And I'm like, okay, we're going to have some fun with this. And then I did have some fun, but it's not the fun that I thought I was going to have. There was some humor attached. Him trying to get Mando into the Yoda hut.
Yeah.
Kept clanging his helmet against the back. That cracked me up. And the only other thing that I didn't like at first, and I talked about this on Star Wars Safe Space on Friday night. Some good friends of mine have a podcast called Star Wars Safe Space, and really good bunch of dudes. If you haven't followed Star Wars Safe Space out there, guys, go give them a follow. Really good bunch of dudes, and they really want everybody to be able to enjoy Star Wars, and they push hard to make that happen. But they had me on the show, and we were talking about it. And the other thing that bugged me, and it was something about Jeremy Allen White's performance as Rada as well. I had a problem with the fact that he was speaking in basic, which is English, like what you and I are speaking right now. He wasn't speaking in Huttese. He wasn't speaking in with the Huttese accent or anything along those lines. And that really kind of bugged me throughout the movie. I was like, well, this just sounds like some fry cook down, from the Bear TV show. That this could be anybody. And then I was talking with one of my buddies. His name is Brad. And Brad's like, well, what did you expect? He didn't grow up around the Hutts.
That's what I was going to say. It's by design, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. It was something I didn't think about during the course of the movie because, when I think of Hutts, I think of Jabba, I think of the twins, and the speaking Huttese and very gruff dialects and things, and so that it threw me off. But like I said, I was talking to my buddy Brad, and he's like, well, yeah, but he didn't grow up around the Hutts. He's basically an adopted child growing up in a different environment, even though it wasn't a safe environment, a different environment altogether with everyone around him speaking basic. So, of course, that's the language he's going to learn and how he's going to sound. And I went, oh, well, hell, that makes a lot of sense. So my two biggest myths, one of them was, golly, I would have liked to have seen something more out of this section. And B, well, golly, I didn't like the way he talked. And then it just made more sense that why he didn't talk that way. And then I was like, well, never mind. I'm just bitching to bitch, apparently. Well, so
can we talk a little bit about that section of the movie where it does slow down and it just becomes Grogu on his own and him surviving?
Absolutely.
To me, I felt like that moment would have been undercut if it would have had an action sequence at the end of it. Because this is Lone Wolf and Cub. Eventually, he's going to have to go on without his father at some point. And so that's the tension of this story, the difference in age that, Mando is going to die before he even enters adulthood. He'll probably be prepubescent when he passes away, something along those lines. I'm not completely familiar with his species aging, but he won't be very old when he goes. And so to know that he'll be ready to take on the world, that's incremental. And if you get to the point where he's out there just kicking ass on his own and he's able to do this and survive and thrive on his own, then that story kind of ends between father and son at that moment. And then they become closer to peers at that point. So I think to have him gear up in the style of an 80s action movie and then really just have it be about him learning to survive on his own, I think emotionally really worked for me. I like that in a movie that has half a dozen action sequences in it, that it stops, pumps the brakes, and it's really about him trying to survive for 20 minutes. It's kind of, if you've watched I'm spacing his name now, the gentleman who made Breaking Bad, he did a TV show that was on Apple TV Plus, and there's an episode that just where it completely stops and goes in a completely different direction. And so this is what that felt like. It was a complete change of pace. And I appreciated the little act break that it had for 20 minutes or so in this movie, that it did do something different. You don't have dialogue in it. The only interaction he has is when he goes and steals the fish at that moment. And you get the feeling like he'll be okay, but he's not there yet. And I think that's a much warmer feeling than he went out and kicked ass. That would have been fun. But I don't think we're there yet. I think we'll get there in maybe 2 or 3 movies, and you'll probably, if they keep making these things, that'll be a passing of the torch moment, which will probably be tied to an actual death, which I didn't think he was going to die in this one.
Right. No, honestly, you know what? That's a great take on that. And again, something I had not considered. So, no, in all honesty, I had not considered that. And that makes a whole lot of sense to me especially because of the lone wolf cub aspect, father, son taking care of the father in a very inconvenient moment. Mm-hmm. So yeah, him going out and kicking all the ass would have been fun. And I really did want to see it just because, he did go full Rambo there for a little
Yeah.
bit. But if nothing else, like many other things in the movie, it was a great, head nod, homage to some great movies of the past, both inside and outside of the Star Wars universe. So that actually makes more sense than yeah.
Well,
I just genuinely did not consider that.
think about Hot Fuzz. I'm sure you've seen that, right?
Oh yeah.
So you know how they have the montages in that where it's gearing up and he's getting ready for battle, but it's him like putting his pencil and his thing, and it's like they cut it in the same way that you do those montages.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can just have those montages for the sake of them. They're just fun and they're enjoyable. It doesn't have to have a payoff, because the payoff is the fact that Grogu is getting ready for battle. He's getting ready to kick ass, and that in and of itself was more than enough for me.
No, that's good. Now I want to go back, and I was going to rewatch the movie anyway, but now I want to rewatch that from that scene, especially with that aspect. And this is what I like about bringing other people on the show and talking about these things, because a lot of times when I go to these movies, especially because Star Wars is so very important to me and such a big part of my fandom and my nerdiness and all those things. So when I first go to a Star Wars movie, the first time I see it, it's very much as a fan. I'm not really picking it apart. I really don't. I'm there for the fun, the fandom, the enjoyment of it. And then usually I get a little more critique filled on second and third watches, which I haven't had my second watch of this yet. But I've talked about it enough with other people between watching it then and now, that I feel like, I know that I haven't watched it, but it almost kind of feels like I've watched it a second time just from the number of people that I've talked to about it. And I like getting other people's perspectives on movies because it helps me to see things in a different light. Like with that scene right there, that is not something I picked up on. I mean, I knew it was father son, but I didn't think of it from the perspective of he's still in training. It wouldn't have been an appropriate time for him to do it. And so this just shows that he knows what needs to be done, but he doesn't know how to do it yet.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so from that perspective, I really do like, and now I like that scene a little bit more. It means more than just a quick joke of the head clank on the back of the Yoda hut, which was entertaining. All right, cool. All right, so let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about things in the movie that we wanted more of. Okay. So I'll go first this time.
Please.
So I love the callbacks to A New Hope and Empire, with the snow and the AT-ATs and the walkers and all that stuff, and the snow. And then there was like the James Bond scene as going down the mountain and that, a little two-legged walker. Like, I half expected to hear James Bond music. Like, it was just a really cool scene. It was fun. It was entertaining. And I love all those type of things. And I know you can't have a movie full of them. And I think they sprinkled them in really well. Between that and the scene, I loved the scene in the fighting room in the chamber where everybody gets released.
New Hope thing.
It's the New Hope chessboard. Especially when the guy slams him down. He's like, I was like, oh my god. So I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed the thing that I wanted to see more of was Zeb. I thought Zeb was underused in the movie. And I was really hoping to see more of him just because I loved him so much in Rebels. And this was technically his big on-screen debut. And, I think he got maybe 10 minutes, if that, of screen time, And so I was just hoping to see more of Zeb. But other than that, I really don't have many complaints about the movie or things like that. But there's a lot more that I loved. So,
there's something with that I've heard it referred to as kind of key jangling, when it's those things that are the callbacks to prior things. And look, here's something you'll remember. And it's really annoying when you go to watch a movie and you can see it, but you don't know what they're talking about. And so it's very difficult to incorporate those elements without them calling attention to themselves. And I think it does it really well in this. Yeah. Now, I'm somebody who I love these movies, but my Star Wars television is pretty limited. Half a season of Mandalorian. Haven't watched Rebels. Haven't watched the Clone Wars. I think I watched Book of Boba Fett, maybe half of Ahsoka, not many of them. So
Okay.
comparatively, so there's a lot of the references that I'm not getting. And I kind of love that about this film is that you could have not seen a thing. This could be your first Star Wars movie. And I think you
Absolutely.
could go in cold and still appreciate this. It's that Stan Lee thing that every comic book could be somebody's first comic that you're writing. So you have to put it in a way that it's not homework to catch up, which I think has been one of the problems with a lot of the Disney stuff, where there has been these prerequisites
Yeah.
for these films. And I was really happy that despite not having seen Mandalorian, I was able to step into this and really enjoy it. I know through being online, a lot of these moments, you mentioned the Luke training, and I'd heard those kinds of things that people minds were blown by that. But I don't think you needed that. And I think it would have softened or cheapened what they did in this movie, because I think they did make something standalone, which is pretty ballsy, because that's something they've been scared to do at this point,
Yeah.
it feels like. And I love the standalone adventures, and I hope they do more things like this.
I agree. I love the fact, and this is one of the things because my wife is, well, a beautiful woman who just doesn't care for Star Wars all that much, but she loves me, so she goes with me. I think that's the best way to put it.
Sure.
And, but even she enjoyed the movie because she was worried that she was going to have to do a lot, that she wasn't going to understand what was going on because she hadn't done the research. And, like with a Marvel movie, especially over the last few years, or even a Marvel TV show, you've had to watch this, and this to be able to understand this. And if you hadn't watched ABC, you definitely weren't going to understand DEF. So I liked the fact that with this movie, you were able to get in, watch the movie, enjoy it without having to understand much of the background. And I think that you could pick up on the fact that, because right away they started referencing Mando and Grogu as father son.
Yeah.
So, they started doing that right away, which I think for any new fans or any new viewers sets the template immediately. Okay, so there's a father son relationship here, and this is what's going on here. And okay, so the Empire's fallen. This is the New Republic. It's a whole new thing, And so I think they set the table really well once they got out of their first scene, that first little action sequence. They really started setting the scene very well for how they were going to move forward with the movie. And I think that's probably one of the stronger suits of this movie, is that it's a welcoming ground for new viewers, new fans.
And that's important. You have to have films that just you want. It's Star Wars. This is a big tent. There's a lot of people, much to what you were talking about at the beginning, where people say it needs to be this exact thing that I want it to be. And if it's anything other than what I want it to be, I'm going to burn the world down. It doesn't need to be that. It can be a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You could enjoy this and Andor in wildly different ways. And so I don't think you have to, and you could watch an episode of Andor and very easily say, I have no interest in this. I can hang out with Mando and Grogu. Those guys are fun. This other stuff where it's a little bit too self-serious for my taste, I have no interest. Or you could go the other way where you really want the more thoughtful, nuanced approach to it. It's why I'm excited about what's going on with DC, where they're doing horror films and involving these other things. Yeah, explode, kind of stretch the limits of it, do new things, get weird. My greatest what if is, what if they would have let Lord and Miller do the comedic version of Solo? I wish that cut existed somewhere in the world. It got finished, but unfortunately that'll never happen.
I understand. Hey, Jesse, and saying hi to Jesse from Crusher Convo. If you're a Star Trek fan, go check out Crusher Convo. She handles so much in the Star Trek community, and handles a lot of the same things that we're talking about right now with the fandoms and everything, and appreciating shows versus movies and all that kind of stuff. So go check it out, and very much through the eyes of Beverly Crusher, because that would be the Crusher in the Crusher Convo, because Jesse is a big fan of that gal. So go check out that. It's a good podcast. And I always say to people that Jesse is she's my Star Trek Sherpa. So whenever I have questions, I go to Jessie. She helps me out. She points me in the right direction. Um, but she does her best. Yes, you do. You do a good job. And she loves her boys too. Yes, you do. So yeah, but go check out Jessie over at Crusher Convo. She's in the other Star universe, but that's okay. We like that too. We're just talking Star Wars tonight. Next time could be Star Trek. So salute. So
I have room in my heart for both. So
absolutely. It's funny because I always tell people that when I was growing up, I thought Star Trek was a joke. Most mostly because it didn't have. I'm like, this is the boringest show. Nobody shoots at anybody. There's not even a single laser sword. Actual comments I have made in the past, and that was all when I was a very young man. But then as I got older, then all of a sudden the stories that were being shared in Star Trek made a lot more sense as I got older and paid attention to things that were going on in the world. And I was like, oh, well, hell, that's kind of scarily accurate. And that was made in the 60s.
Yeah.
So, but Jesse pointed me out in the right direction. Good ways, helped me get some gateways into the Trek community in ways that I would appreciate it. So, but Jesse says, Star Wars is the only universe my kid will allow. I mentioned Trek and she rolls her eyes. Maybe as she gets older, we shall see. Oh, hi, Kathleen. So Gene totally understood the assignment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting for me today. We're talking about things that we wanted to see more of in these stories. But we'll get back to that in just a second, just because I got derailed on a ADHD side quest.
Perfect.
It's kind of what happens over here. But it cracks me up when people start complaining that Star Trek and Star Wars have gone woke. And I'm like, did you guys not watch the original movie or the original show or anything? Because, I mean,
it was all there.
It's all there. The markers are there. I mean, just okay. Anyway, yes, I know. Shocker, right? I got derailed. I too am surprised by this. Let's see. Thanks for joining my live on Friday about River Song. Yep. That's why there's no med brains, brain go vroom. Yeah, she's had a rough day, so she was like, I'm gonna back out tonight. I was like, I absolutely understood. So, but yeah. We love having Jessie on the show, and she has us on her show from time to time, and it's good times. All right, so let's get back to things that we wanted more of. So I said I wanted to see more Zeb, and that's going to hold true. I want more Zeb, and I'm hoping that we're going to see more of him in Ahsoka season 2. I think that's what this is going to pan out to. And I also wanted more of Sigourney Weaver.
Agreed. 100%.
Again, she had about 10-15 minutes on camera. I think we talked about this again Friday on Star Wars Safe Space, that there was some wasted opportunities for her to, with the Easter eggs and the callbacks we were doing to other movies, for her to use some classic lines from other movies, especially when they were getting ready to do a bombing run. And I was like, the nuke 'em from orbit line, if we could have used that would have been just chef's kiss. But
I could say you could use more Sigourney Weaver in every movie. I don't care what movie it is. It didn't have enough Sigourney Weaver in it. She's one of those cousins.
She might not even be in the movie, and I'll be like, yeah, there wasn't enough Sigourney.
What was your main complaint about Lawrence of Arabia? There wasn't enough Sigourney Weaver in it. Just didn't work for me.
Exactly. Yeah. The first silent movie. Yeah. No Sigourney Weaver.
She did get to do the bombing raid at the end, which is pretty fun to get to see her do something like that. The sequence when they're at the table is pretty great, but I would have loved to have had just a little bit more. But it's hard to say the more of, because one of the strengths of this film is that while it is over 2 hours, it's just barely over 2 hours, it doesn't feel bloated. And a lot of these films feel bloated. And I like the fact that it feels pretty lean and then it gets to the point quickly and we get out. And it's that kind of Mad Max Fury Road plot device where it's okay, we need to get over there. Nope, wait, we got to get back over here. And that's it. That's the whole movie. That's the plot to Mandalorian and Grogu. They have a place they need to go. Get this guy. Turns out that's not the mission we needed to do. Now we're going to go over there. That's it. That's the whole. It's pretty straightforward, simple to get your head around. That you can watch this with a 5-year-old. You can watch it with a 10-year-old, like I did. I took my 10-year-old son to see it. He had never seen any Star Wars before. Literally the first Star Wars thing he's seen, and he enjoyed it. He had a good time with it. And I think that adding more to that, if you made another 20 minutes on this, as much as I would love to see 20 more minutes of Sigourney Weaver in the movie, what's the 20 minutes you cut out of that? Is there anything you would cut in place of the thing you want to add?
No, you'd have to expand the movie, because there wasn't anything that I want to cut out of this movie, because I liked the story as it is.
Yeah.
I don't know where I would get more Sigourney into the movie, but I want more Sigourney and I want more Zeb. And at this point, these are just wishful thinking complaints. Let's see. We have a whole conversation going on here. Kathleen says, I want more frogs. Jesse points out that frogs are in danger around Grogu. Kathleen admits, I haven't seen the movie. I just think Grogu deserves more froggies. Jesse says, I say macaroons. I think that's how you pronounce that. Froggy macaroons or macarons or however you say it.
Macaroons?
Yeah, we'll go with that. Kathleen says, I also love watching Tim watch the comments come in and try to pretend he's paying attention. I was paying attention, Kathleen. Thank you very much. Multitasking it. Exactly. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you.
Look, if you need me to vamp while you go off and read something for a little, it's fine. I've been doing this for a long time. I have no problem doing that. I'm not insulted.
No, I was paying attention. It's fine.
And I've been married for 16 years. I'm used to people tuning out while I talk about Star Wars. It's just that's ingrained at this point.
Absolutely, it's all part of the deal. But yeah, no, you're 100% right. The one of the strong suits of this movie is that it keeps a nice pace. I didn't ever feel like the story stalled out, or that I was sitting here waiting for something to happen. Even in the section where Mando's incapacitated and Grogu's taking care of him and he's going over by the fish guy, that still has a lot. And you as you pointed out earlier, there's still a lot to be taken away from that. And things that inform other sections of the movie. So it's not that like this is just filler wasted space where we could cut out that whole scene and add some more Sigourney Weaver in there. That's still a very necessary part of the movie. And I think so Kathleen, Tim is just used to his little sister being a pest. Yes, I am. So was there anything else though, that you saw that you thought, well, even though we like the pacing of the movie, we like the way that the plot is laid out, we like the world build, the character build in the movies, is there something though that you looked at this and you went, I would have liked to have had more of that?
It's almost the opposite, where I'm shocked that I got as much Phil Tippett in this movie as I did. So to see that level of work and craftsmanship that we haven't seen in a movie like this in 40, 50 years at this point, almost, it seems like, it's to see his work being used this way and beyond just a small visual callback to the chess scene from A New Hope. The fact that you get to see, and he had a fairly large credit in this. I don't know if it was something where he was involved in the recreation of these characters or how much stop motion he was doing here, but if they were recreating stop motion, sort of that choppiness that you get, they were doing that in a little bits here. I don't know if that was digital or if that was something they were actually using stop motion. I was thrilled that there was even any of it. So, but yeah, more of that, more stop motion in a Star Wars film. I'm always on board for that.
Yeah, that's a great thought. I don't know how that all came to be about, but yeah, I need to do a little bit more research onto that and see what they were doing and how they did it, because it is a cool scene and it is one of the, in my opinion, the better callbacks in the movie. Especially for reaching back to the original trilogy.
Are you familiar with Mad God, Phil Tippett? He has this movie that he made, stop motion film that he did a couple years ago.
No,
It's
I'm not.
if you're a fan of stop motion stuff, I would recommend checking it out. It's a bizarre horror film that he made, and it took him, I think, 15 or 20 years to make it, but it's a
Oh my.
pretty remarkable work. So it's pretty impressive. And so the fact that he's found this second life through that film and through a documentary that was made about him, it's pretty exciting to see, because that's I miss the Harryhausen look of things in these
Oh
films.
yeah. You know, the practical effects and the puppetry that was used in the first few movies is always a fan favorite for me. Star Wars always does really good with android and creature creation, but I like it when there's actual creatures, just not CGI.
Agreed.
It makes it more of a feel of a complete universe, more entertaining. And I'm glad that the Grogu is actually a working remote puppet, and it makes things a little.
It's almost like your mind won't believe it when you see him.
Yeah.
You have to actually know that going in, otherwise you'll start to think that it is. But no, it's practical effects, absolutely
Practical effects for the win. Absolutely, 100%. Kathleen says, I need to know, do we get to see Space Daddy's face in the movie? No, Kathleen, you do not. Okay, you do, but I just wanted to give her some crap.
Do we see different versions?
Yeah, you get to see Space Daddy's face for sure. Yeah, there is no Bo-Katan, so Bo-Katan is not in this movie. Not even for just a quick snippet. Yeah. Matter of fact, I think the only Mandalorians you see in this movie are Mando and Grogu. So I don't think that there's any others, unless I'm mistaken. But and the fun auntie who fixes the ship. Nope, none of her either. They do not go. Only because they do not go to Tatooine in this movie. So if they did, then you get to see whatever her name is with the curly hair. I can't think of her name right now, but yeah. She was in Mando season 3 and Book of Boba Fett, but I can't remember her name to save my soul right now. So, okay, so let's talk about how this affects story moving forward, because we did say that this is a movie that you could sit down, you could watch without any Star Wars knowledge. You could just walk into it, but there are a couple of things that do affect lore moving forward. So. Sure. How do you see this affecting Star Wars lore moving forward?
There's one of two things that could happen. Obviously, they could go back to making another season, or they could continue making the films. As far as just from a story point of view, I personally would rather have more films to come out than more seasons of the show. I might be in the minority in that opinion. But I like the idea of checking in for an hour and a half, 2 hours every 6 months, instead of needing to spend 10 hours every 18 months to catch up with these guys. So I hope it continues. Either way, I would have the inclination to check back in, even if it becomes season 4. At this point, I would check back in, but I feel like movies seem like the natural progression, but apparently week 2 wasn't very good at the box office, so I'm not sure. The future could be a little bit shaky here.
Okay. Let's see. So the name is Pelimato. Because Jesse Googled it. Thank you, Jesse. Where my brain failed, she picked up. Yeah, so the first week was extremely strong. Second week, not as strong. But from what I'm understanding, most movies across the board also did not do very strong in the second week of its airing. So the other movies that were out there. So I like to think that that's more of a golly, it was nice and sunshiny in most parts of the United States and nice weather, and maybe folks were too busy enjoying the great outdoors and didn't need a 2-hour respite from the heat.
But then you had like a movie like Backrooms made $80 million, and then a movie like Obsession went up for the third week, that hasn't happened since E.T. That's the first movie since E.T. where it made more money in the second week than it did in the first week, and then more money in the third week than it did in the second week. There's people going to see movies. They're just not going to see the things that were important from when we were kids, or
Gotcha.
that audience is much smaller than it once was.
Okay. And I think too, for the Star Wars fandom, I think that a lot of this, there's the folks that are always going to go the first week to 2 weeks
Yeah.
to see a movie. But I think that post COVID, one of the things that has changed is that a lot of the fandom now is just going to wait for it to come to Disney Plus.
Yep. We got trained.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's been a loss of enjoying the physical media and going to the theater and going and having that experience where people, and there's nothing wrong with this. I'm not knocking this for whatever, not at all. If that's how you do, you do you, boo boo. If that's how you prefer to go forward, that's fine. But I'm hoping that I'm hoping for more movies out of this. I enjoy the theater experience.
So do I.
Especially when it comes to my there's a couple core fandoms that I have to see in the theater. I have to see my Star Wars movies first time in the theater. Usually on opening day. This time I didn't get to see it till like 3 days in. I was very bummed. I like to go opening day, the first viewing, if at all possible. The others that I have to see in the theaters are my Marvel and DC movies.
Sure.
Because I want that big theater experience. I want the sound. I want I want the audience excitement. And also when I went like the third, like I said, I think it was either the third or fourth day. I went at 10 o'clock in the morning. It was me and two other people in the theater. I'm like, well, this is disappointing. I'm like, so I was the only one in the audience doing the woo, yay. Takes a whole lot of the fun out of it, but
can I ask you a question about the theatrical experience though?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so when you're watching this, one of the first things that you'll catch, I think, and it's something they've done with these films that are not a part of the Skywalker trilogy, where you have a different score associated with it. What did you think of the score of this, and not having the fanfare at the beginning of a Star Wars movie? Is that something that you miss every time when it's not one of those?
Actually, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of my other complaints about the movie. I completely forgot about it.
Okay.
Was that I want the crawl.
Yeah.
I want the crawl. I want the opening. I want the Star Wars theme. And I understand that, it was a good score to the movie. The movie music is fantastic.
It's one of the best Star Wars scores since the original.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Absolutely. But I still want the opening crawl, and I want the Star Wars theme to play, and then it can drift out into whatever music that they want it to be. But I think personally, if it's going to be in the Star Wars universe, even if it's not a Skywalker adjacent movie, or it doesn't have a Skywalker in it of some form or fashion, it should still have the Star Wars theme, because it's a Star Wars movie. And for me, that was okay. So that was one of the things I forgot. But yeah, it does take away a little bit of the fun of the theater experience for me, because I get on the edge of my seat. I'm leaning forward, like in anticipation of that. And I'm like, the only movie I've gone to of the Star Wars movies that didn't have the crawl that I was okay with that was Rogue One.
Yeah.
Just because Rogue One, the way that they opened was just beautiful. And it was just a really cool cinematic. So
really incredible, but that's one that you could absolutely argue that it's so tied in to the others that it really deserved and should have had that, because it's backing itself right up into the movie. So,
well, yeah, I mean, it butts right up into A New Hope. I mean, I don't know, I've told this story before. When I got done watching Rogue One, I got out to my car, drove home at speeds that were not suggested, just so I could walk in the door and start A New Hope on my TV. Like, I had to connect the dots in my brain, because it felt like it was like in my brain, it was like, what's next. And the movie just ended. And I was like, So
it's such a perfect, my favorite ending in any Star Wars film to date, personally.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. But with that though,
bye, Jesse.
I have one question for you. or I
Okay.
guess say devil's advocate, because I agree with you. I miss the fanfare. I miss the Star Wars music. But then I think of something like Superman Returns, and you go back to that score, and it feels like a cheat where you're playing the music that made me feel stuff when I was a kid, and I'm feeling that again right now, but it's not earned. And so I worry. I actually really appreciate that they aren't leaning into the things that made me feel something when I was a kid, that they're just going out on their own and creating a new thing for it. It's got to be hard to do that. And I do appreciate that they've stuck to that, even though I miss it.
Okay. I can
Does
see
that make
that.
sense?
No, it does. Very much a double-edged sword. I see what you're going for there. Because with Superman, one of my hardest things has been, and especially with the new Superman movie that we just had with the James Gunn directed one. One of the things I loved about that was that we got back to the return of the nerdy, geeky Clark Kent.
Yes.
And because that's what I remember as Superman from growing up as a kid. And, with that score and, well, sorry, Lois,
Yeah.
so for me, I see what you're saying. So it's very much a double-edged sword, I think. If you boot it and you don't do the movie right, then have you earned the score? This
Sometimes when you
iconic
give
score.
fans what they want, you go from The Last Jedi, which is one of my favorite Star Wars
Yes.
films. I know that's not a popular opinion, to what happens afterwards, which is probably my least favorite. I think when you give us what we want, we don't know what we need is the problem.
Right. Oh, I'll agree with that 100%. And I will have to admit, I hated Last Jedi at first.
Okay.
Like,
well, what is it you hated about it? Just out of curiosity.
So I had a problem with Leia Mary Poppinsing herself back into the ship.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
It's still not my favorite scene, but I'm much more at peace with it than I ever was before.
Okay.
And then secondarily, I I joke around about the Last Jedi. Luke was the lore, he was the Onceler from the Lorax. Come back tomorrow and I'll teach you more about the Force.
Yeah.
Those two things really, really bugged the absolute bejesus out of me with that movie. But the rest of the movie, the storyline was tight. The cinematics are amazing. That whole the Holdo maneuver with the silent cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing that in the theater, I still get chills down my back thinking about that.
It's
being
incredible.
in the theater and watching that, it's a really cool piece of cinema. But I had to grow into that movie. And then I watched the dumpster fire that was Return, The Rise of Skywalker. There are silver linings to that movie. There are things about Rise of Skywalker that I do enjoy, and I will always find a silver lining in something in a Star Wars offering. However, it is clearly not my favorite Star Wars movie. It is very much at the bottom of any ranking list that I would ever put together.
Yeah, couldn't agree with you more. It's the thing I was struck by that I loved about Last Jedi was that the idea of birthright and just upending that, and that this doesn't have to be this blood thing. There could be somebody who just showed up, because that's what it felt like when you watched A New Hope. This was just some kid. We didn't know all these other things, and it got back to that feeling again, which we had lost in all the 7 movies that came after that. That we got back to this place where it could be anybody. And going back to, it could be, any little girl could now find an entry point to this. Any little boy could find an entry point into this. And then we just had to blow that out of the water and make her a Sith baby. So
yeah,
hard pass.
Yeah. There was a lot of swings and misses with Rise of Skywalker. There's, like I said, there's some good things, but there's some problematic things too.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that with The Last Jedi and even with Force Awakens, there was that resounding feeling of found family, which Star Wars is famous for, and which we see in Mandalorian and Grogu as well. We see that tie between Mando and Grogu, and we see how delicate that relationship and how important that relationship is. So I do like the fact that Star Wars has angled itself back into that realm, where it's because nothing against the prequel movies. I love the prequels, but there wasn't as much of the feeling as Found Family because and it has mostly to do with the exploration of Anakin's descent into the dark side, and so it
Sure.
makes sense that you're not really exploring the Found Family. You're exploring this guy losing his way and becoming the villain that we all love to love. um and so, but I love that Star Wars, even with the TV shows and everything else, has gone back into that direction, and we're seeing that on, on the big screens too. Like like I talked about with Mando and Grogu. I think that's a very important aspect of Star Wars, and one thing that's always attracted me to it.
Oh yeah, that's for most people. It wasn't Lucas's idea on tariffs and trade were the things that got people into Star Wars in the first place. And so I have a feeling that idea of a found family, and by extension, the people that really took this on, that we all found families beyond our own in this world too, that we found a community of
Oh yeah,
people that love this stuff, the sort of the sci-fi geeks and nerds, these people that are just that obsess over this. And you found a family outside of yourself by your shared love of this. And when you would go to the, prior to the internet, you would go to the theater and you would have that communal experience. And that was how you connected and found these people that were in your neighborhood that you never knew were even there. And that's why you got to go to theaters. I know it's a little bit of a side tangent there, but yeah, to pull that back to that idea of
I love it.
preferring the theater over watching it at home. It's that sense of community that you have, and that family outside of yourself that you feel, that even when the silence, when it drops out, and you didn't have this moment because you saw it in a nearly empty theater, but in Mando and Grogu, when it gets quiet in that moment, it was incredible. When it's all, when there's a little bit of threat around what could happen to Grogu in that moment when he's by himself, and the theater, everybody was just dialed into that moment. It was wonderful, beautiful moment.
Oh yeah, all 4 people in my theater the morning that I went and see it, we were all dialed in. So hi Starfall, welcome to the show, and glad you got a new profile. Welcome. But yeah, that I do love that. I do love that we are seeing the found family, and I do love the fact that you hit on the importance of why we, one of the reasons we go to the theaters, to have that communal experience, to have that shared experience. I mean, think about if you went and you watched like the Marvel Avengers movies, the End Game, and
Sure.
you would still enjoy a movie, and it would still be fun to see Captain America take the Thor's hammer for the first time, and all that stuff. But seeing that in the theater and watching and hearing the place literally explode with cheers and hurrahs, and watching people cry in the audience for different other things that happened in the movie, there's such an emotional tie-in to everyone else. It makes it a more entertaining viewing experience, in my opinion. And that's one of the reasons why I like to go to the theaters for these things, because you miss out on that sense of community, that sense of fun. So if you haven't gone and seen Mandalorian and Grogu in the theater, I would strongly suggest that you do. Even if you were thinking about waiting for the end for it to come to Disney Plus, I understand your reasonings for doing that, and I don't judge anyone for doing that, but I would strongly urge you to go see this movie in the theater. It is very much, in my opinion, what I call a fun popcorn flick. Just get your popcorn, sit down, and enjoy a fun movie for 2 hours, where you're not unplugging your brain, but you're just able to sit down, watch, have some laughs, see some cool action sequences, and when you walk out, you're like, well, that was a good time. That to me is a popcorn flick.
See, I'm going to show my hand a little bit more here. I'm a greedy American consumer, and I want more of these things in the theater. So I really need people to go see it so we get more of them. So do it for me, because I want more of this. That's it.
That's fair, buddy. I appreciate that. All right, let's give our ratings for the movie. Out of 10, where are you sitting on this?
It's hard, because I would almost need to like go back and look at. To me, I honestly put just one watch. I need to sit with it a little bit longer, watch it a few more times, get my head around it fully. But this feels like top tier Star Wars to me. That this does feel like a solid 8. I feel really good about this experience, having seen it. And it wasn't the Star Wars that I saw when I was a kid, but it took me back to seeing like the Dark Crystal and seeing something like
Oh
that, that
yeah.
made that, it took me back to seeing, you know, Time Bandits, something like that, that I saw when I was a kid. And it had that vibe to it, which I wasn't expecting from a Star Wars film. And I loved kind of having that feeling again. So yeah, I'd say 8.
Okay. Very good. What's up, Granzer? You're saying a 1. Really? Okay. Now, Granzer's on our show quite often, and he's got some really cool comments and questions. Longtime cinema fan. So I am curious why you scoring it as a 1, honestly. So if you take a second and type up your response for us, Granzer, I would really appreciate that. I'd love to know why you scored it a 1. For me, I'm at about a 7.5, I think. Just a little bit. 7.5, somewhere between 7.5 and 8. I really enjoyed the movie, and I think that a second viewing is something that I need. I think it would help me to kind of catch on some of the things that I am positive I missed out on the first watch, but that's okay. That's the fun of it, because I know I'll go see it in the theater at least one more time, and then of course then there's the umpteen trillion watches I will do once it comes to Disney Plus. So because I am a amateur seeking professional status when it comes to watching Star Wars, I watch it all the way through in chronological order, get to the end, start all the way back at the beginning, and do it all over again. So
in chronological is the way that you, not in the order they were released, but in the order that they actually exist in the world is how you
correct.
watch them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you watch this movie and a couple episodes here, and then you watch that movie and a couple episodes here and watch that. So there's some jumping around required, but there's some really cool chronological lists there. Or if you want to, I call it lazy chrono. If you want to do lazy chrono, you watch the couple required TV shows leading up to the prequels. Then you watch the prequels, and then you watch the animated series that are in the middle. Then you watch the OGs, and then you watch the other shows that are in the middle between the OGs and the sequels. And then you watch those. Yeah. And then I just for good measure, before I start watching, and this is my own, and I have to throw this in there because I interviewed Kyle Newman, who is the director of this movie.
Yeah,
there's a movie out there called Fanboys, which if you have never watched that and you're a Star Wars fan, please,
it's a fun
for the love
movie.
of God, oh, I adore that movie. It's like so very much. But I had Kyle Newman on the show, and I told him, I said, this is my head canon, and I will die on this hill that this movie is actually canon and belongs in the Star Wars universe, because it starts out with a crawl. It follows our main protagonist all the way through his story to his rise of being the hero that he wanted to be. And then at the end, it walks right into Phantom Menace with the opening of the Phantom Menace.
Okay.
And I'm like,
fair enough.
So I was like, yeah, it's Star Wars. It's canon. And there's some really good Star Trek jokes in there too. So
until you got to the last part where it ends with Phantom Menace, I was thinking, does that make Spaceballs because it opens with a crawl? Also,
there was other characteristics, but yeah. And that's Star Wars adjacent, with my boy Yogurt. So I can't wait for Spaceballs 2. I'm so excited for that movie.
The moment when John Candy says, "I'm my own best friend," is it just breaks my heart every time I hear it now. It's just not many celebrity deaths impact me, but that one, when I go back and watch it, it just
Did you
guy that I never knew?
Did you watch the documentary about him?
I did. Yeah.
I had to have a box of tissues because I was like, all right, I can watch this. All right, I can keep watching.
That Colin Hanks is a good little filmmaker. His documentaries are solid. His Tower Records documentary is really good also, if you haven't seen that one.
I have not. I'll check that out.
It's really good.
All right. I'm a big documentary fan, so I'll have to check that out. Let's see. Granzer says, I don't like my sci-fi to be too cute and silly funny. The lesser, the better for this fan. Saying that, Grogu, just can't stand the character. That's where Star Wars ruins with me, with the Ewoks and Jar Jar Binks. He's been heavily on the anti-Jar Jar train, so I understand. Yeah, that's pretty consistent, I would say, Granzer, with some of the conversations we've had. So, and I can appreciate all of that. it took me a while to wrap my head around the Ewoks portion. You know, the
I
the
can't.
danger bears.
Tough to defend Jar Jar, in my opinion. Ewoks came at a point in my life. I'm 49, so I think I was at that exact target age for Ewoks.
Same.
Warwick Davis. It's just it. I know. I don't care how silly it is. It's just it's etched into my DNA. I love it. I
For sure.
unapologetically adore an Ewok.
Also 49. I totally
Okay.
get it. So
Yeah.
Revenge. Return of the Jedi was the very first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters that I remember.
So my first memory is seeing the re-release of Star Wars on a double feature with the Muppet movie when I was 3 years
oh,
old.
cool.
And so I saw that would have been 70, so 80, I guess they were re-releasing it at that point for whatever reason. And when I saw it, I remember can actually remember my first memory of C3PO and R2D2 walking across the desert. It's the earliest memory I can actually still pull up in my mind. I don't know if I'm
cool.
remembering it at this point, but it is the earliest thing I can recall. What is your first Star Wars memory that you have?
Honestly, it was the it's it's for Return of the Jedi. It's the opening crawl. I remember just being the sound, and I was like, let's see, that came out 84, so I'd have been about 8 years old. And then just being so mesmerized with, there was these action scenes, and then there was swords, and what's going on with these bears? These bears are cool. Whoa, these bears are dangerous. And so I don't know. For me, that's my very first. I always tell people that's my very first thing I remember about Star Wars is the fanfare, the crawl, and when that came out, I just remember being like mesmerized, like glued to the screen, and I was like, "Oh, what's going on? This is awesome! I need to pay attention."
Speeder bikes were the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life up to that point.
Oh yeah,
that was it.
Yeah,
that was my favorite toy. I loved those things. They were incredible.
Plus, I walked out of there with a heckin' crush on Leia. So,
how could you not? How could you not?
Exactly. I was 8, but I didn't know why I liked girls, but by golly, she was pretty. So, yeah. All right. Well, very cool. Well, Granzer, hey, remind everybody before we close out here real quick, remind everybody about your show, where they can find you, all that cool stuff.
Yeah, of course. It's followingfilms.com is the website. If you want to read any of the reviews that I write up, if you want to just listen to the podcast, you can go to wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube. Just search for Following Films. You should be able to find it. Had a ton of geeky, nerdy people on there. I think we've both had Mr. Jones on recently. And
yeah.
So, yeah, we have overlap every once in a while with the guests that we have on our shows. But, yeah, give it a listen. I would appreciate it.
All right. Very cool. And speaking of Mr. Jones, yes. So this week on Pop Culture Addicts, that is who our interview is with. And if you watch or listen to the episode, you'll find out why I called him the finest Charlie Cardinal. There's a pretty cool behind the scenes story there that didn't get shared. Well, I think it gets shared in the interview. So never mind. It's not all that behind the scenes, but yeah. One of these days, I'm going to have to share the cut of his eyes in the background as I called up that memory. It's pretty funny. But yeah, so that's available now, of course, on all your favorite podcast platforms, and of course here on YouTube. Now, coming up Wednesday, I'm sharing my interview with Rachel Kimsey. Rachel is a voice actor, and she's been an on-screen actor. She did about 125 episodes of, I think it was The Young and the Restless. And then she moved into voice acting, and she's been on X-Men 97, Justice League Action as Wonder Woman, and a few other places as Wonder Woman as well. But Rachel is I had such a blast with her. She's such a hoot. But yeah, so those are what's going on right now in the Pop Culture Addicts world. So guys, thank you very much for tuning in and or listening and or watching rather. Yeah, we had a lot of fun tonight, a lot of good conversation. Granzer says, late 60s here, we booed when the Ewoks were shown. We got half our money back. The first half was solid. Jabba versus Skywalker, Rancor monster. Fair enough, man. Oh, that's funny. I get it, but it's funny. All right, guys, make sure to go give Chris a follow. I got his Instagram handle down in the show notes down below. It's at @following_films. Go give him a follow. Go check him out on his website. And on behalf of Chris, thank you to everybody for watching and or listening tonight. And may the force be with you as you continue to live long and prosper. Goodbye. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by Pop Culture Addicts. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@pcapod.com.